So welcome to Knox. This is the back end of the EICMA show. We've been here all week, and this will probably be the last video that you see on the Knox channel from EICMA. But walking around all week, we've seen some really cool show bikes. And in particular, we've noted some fantastic middleweight adventure bikes that have been really taken to the extremes in terms of what they can do. And they're quite inspiring to see what you can turn a stock middleweight adventure bike into and do some really cool things with it. So we've picked out 3 or 4 bikes and we're going to show you them right now. So the first bike that we're going to talk about is probably the one that kicked it all off, to be fair, and that is the Paul Taures's bike, which is the Ténéré 700. You know, unless you've been living under a rock somewhere, you probably will have seen Paul Taures and the footage that they've got with him riding the Ténéré 700. And this is basically his bike. So he did some of the Erzberg rodeo. He's done some amazing enduro events and also some incredible stunts. And yeah, I mean, this is part of the icon, you know, how the Ténéré 700 has become quite cult, really, is on the back of some of this stuff and on the back of what Paul's been doing with this bike. And it's an amazing build. I mean, this isn't your sort of typical custom build. I think when we look into the spec of it, they've managed to save about 40 kilos from the stock Ténéré 700, which is massively impressive. And you know, that is an incredible feat of engineering to be able to do that. Sometimes, you know, when you're looking at customizing a bike, you can probably look to save, you know, 15, 20 kilos from it with the exhaust system, taking off all the lights and so on, replacing a few bits and pieces. But to go to the extremes that they've gone to for this bike, to make it do the things that Paul is doing, is unbelievable. Obviously just makes it much more chuckable than the stock one. Paul is also a really big guy. I've seen him with a picture next to someone that I know. He's really tall, he's a big strapping lad. So that obviously helps as well for him doing what he's doing with this bike, but it's massively impressive nonetheless. You've got totally revised plastic. Every thing that is heavy will have been taken off this bike. We're running like a single brake disc even. That's about probably reducing weight. Obviously single caliper as well. You can save probably a couple of well, more than a couple of kilos with that alone. You've got obviously fully revised suspension, fully revised rally tower. You know, everything has been done to this to make it just simply incredible and do what it's been doing. Much more ground clearance. Obviously he's a really tall rider anyway, so ground clearance is a good thing, and he's able to ride the bike like that. Revised shock, revised wheels, obviously a full, is it a Krapovic exhaust system he's got on? Yeah, Krapovic exhaust system. But yeah, mightily impressive. Now there is a build video with this bike that I'll probably put in the link in the description so you can go into a bit more depth what they've done with it, but it's massively impressive. And now we're going to go and show you a couple of the other ones that we've seen. So next up, we're going to take a look at 2 amazing builds from the Piaggio group. Okay, so next up, we're going to have a quick look at this. This is the Tuareg 660. New out, I think this year actually, this bike. I've talked to a few people who've ridden them. I talked to Adam Child. He really rates this bike. Very tractable motor, lovely electronics, and just a really nice bike to ride. And it's fantastic to see now that they've almost gone down that Paul Taures route with it as well and sort of turned it into a proper rally bike. I think this one was done by, who is it? G-Course. So we'll put the link in the description for their website, and maybe they've got some more content on this specific build as well. But I tell you what, first impressions is it looks fantastic. You can see they've put the rally tower on it. They've put the map book or the road map book on it, so you can, you know, see where you are at in the rally. They've changed the full suspension. They've made it much taller. The bike is dropped 20 kilos, so it's probably quite a little bit less extreme than the one that we just looked at before, which was that 700 Ténéré one. and a bit more realistic for you guys to look at and think, hey, do you know what, realistically I could probably chuck, you know, 10 grand at my bike and get it looking like this. Yeah, so full Öhlins Adriani suspension front and rear. They've done the same thing on the front disc, and they've just gone with one brake disc and one brake caliper at the front, presumably to save weight. Really impressive build. Obviously, you know, full system exhaust on it, really massive bash plate, revised tyres, proper enduro tyres. And that is also looking really cool, I reckon. And number plate too. It's got a number plate. Very swish. So next up is probably the most impressive in my opinion, and that's the Moto Guzzi V85 TT rally bike, again by that G-Course company. But if you look at this, I mean, they've stripped it back so much to get it looking like it is and clearly performing like it is as well. The V85 TT is a really interesting middleweight adventure bike. Middleweight is quite heavyweight, it's 220 kilos. They reckon that they've chopped like best part of 40 kilos off of this, because it's 185 kilos. That is blooming impressive, and you look at it and you think, crikey, they've chopped half the bike away. It's a lot slimmer, it's a lot more athletic looking, and it's a real sort of testament that what could be done with this particular model. I'd have never thought they'd have done a rally bike out of a V85 TT. And I tell you what, I think it looks absolutely fantastic. The looks of the Moto Guzzi are still in there, but it's looking more purposeful, it's looking more athletic, it's looking like it can go out there and do a cracking job. Absolutely unbelievable. And I think you guys watching this will also think, wow, they've done a great job with that. So obviously they're retaining the V-twin motor, which is going to be really, really characterful. They've put a full system on it, so I bet you it sounds absolutely amazing. Of course, they've gone long travel suspension, front and rear. This is Adriani Öhlins stuff. So it's much longer travel, much higher quality. Jack the rear up quite a bit. What's great about this bike as well, and it's different to the other ones, it's shaft driven as well. So, you know, arguably there's a little bit more reliability there. There's no chain and so on and so forth. But I'm sure if you to cartwheel it down a hill, you know, maybe that wouldn't remain quite as reliable. But do you know what? It's absolutely fantastic and very, very impressed by it. So the last little look is probably the purest option, to be fair, and the highest performance is gonna be. And that is the Fantic Rally Factory Edition. Now it's clear that they're selling the bike as it is right here, with all the rally tower on it, and you know, the fairings, the extra fuel tanks and all that kind of stuff. But obviously it's built on the chassis of the 450 version, which is really cool. Now the other thing what they're doing is they seem to be selling a kit that you can actually upgrade your Fantic 450. So if you've got a Fantic 450 Enduro bike, you could buy this kit and actually turn it into one of these rally bikes. And you know, they're kind of providing this kit with everything in it to be able to do that job. So you've got revised triple clamps, you've got an exhaust system, Arrow exhaust system, you've got the nav tower, everything that you need there to go and turn this into something that actually would be genuinely competitive and not just sort of a revised middleweight adventure bike, basically. So this is undeniably going to be the highest performance. It's the lightest weight because ultimately the bike starts in enduro form about 113 kilos. So it's going to be the lightest, the most high performance in a rally sort of capacity. Now the great thing about Fantic is they actually use the engine platforms from Yamaha, so the same frame, same swing arm, same engine. And these motors, even though they're an enduro motor that does need a bit more maintenance, actually they're pretty bulletproof. And certainly you talk to Ed at Red Tread, who runs like a fleet of these basically, they're absolutely bulletproof and really, really reliable motors. Obviously we've got the WR250, and the 450 is, you know, similar but with a load more power. And this is very, very impressive. So really hope you've enjoyed that first look. Final thoughts? I think actually with some new middleweight adventure bikes coming into the market, like the Honda Transalp, that new Suzuki thing as well, you know, over the next couple of years, I'm sure we're going to see some rally-inspired versions of them too. But there's a lot of potential with these type of bikes, and I think it's really exciting to see what people are actually doing with stock bikes to turn them into something a bit more interesting, a bit more performance orientated, and really cool. Now, obviously, if you wanted to do that to your own bike, you know, you're going to need to chuck a few quid at it. For me personally, you could actually go another direction as well and take something that's probably a better stock bike to do that type of thing. Something like a 701 Enduro, like with the bike that we've got. That is a much better rolling chassis to start to, you know, modify into a rally bike, because it's lighter, it's probably got higher spec components, and it's just an easier thing to bolt on rather than starting with a heavier rolling chassis and then, you know, be pulling things off of it and having to buy really expensive parts to do it. Or of course you can go the Fantic option here, which you see, and they're going to be absolutely great. So I really hope you've enjoyed that little look around. Please subscribe, let us know what you think in the comment section, and we'll see you next time.